Today we're going to be talking about the MPC sequence. Let's explain that. Let's get into the main definition of that MPC, the sequence aspect of it, which I also like to call the MIDI equation. You see, majority of the MPC users don't know that there is actually a level of calculations and some things you need to understand, especially when you're on the grid view, before you just go ahead and say, you know what, let me start recording or let me start laying my beats. We're going to be taking a look at how you need to understand the whole essence of that MPC sequence, that grid view, to help you, make better beats. So let's go. Welcome back. So basically, today we're going to be taking a look at the whole sequencer and your grid view. There is actually an equation that takes place, on your grid view that you need to be aware of, and this relationship of that grid view, the relationship that exists between that grid view and your timing correct feature. You need to understand how that works. It will help you to properly plan your MIDI event when you are trying to make your beat, and that is what we're going to be taking the time to explain today. All right, so let's go. We're basically going to start from the home screen of your device. Let's say whichever device you have with you, your touch, your live, or your X, your one, same interface applies here, as you can see on my screen. Now, so basically, let's say we're dealing with just this first sequence. We're going to be taking our time to look at what the bar, the beat, and then that particular thick is in relation to your timing correct, and how all this fits into your grid, how each of them are related and are connected, what you need to know to make proper decisions when it comes to your timing correct, and how you need to your basic understanding of how your grid view, what are the things that is obtainable on your grid view. It's way beyond the normal, it's way beyond the usual, trust me. So let's dive in. I'm going to start from the grid view, right? So let me go to the grid view. When I click on the grid view, this is what I got. Now, again, I said we're going to take a look at this beat, bar, and thick. Now, we have beat, bar, and thick. What exactly? I'm sure you're familiar with the beat, you're familiar with the bar, and but then what exactly is that thick? That thick, what exactly does it mean? Okay, so let's take a look at this. Right now, on my screen, if you come to my menu, you see I've just taken liberty of putting a particular, just kit for the purpose of the, tutorial. Nothing serious. So let's go back to the grid view, right? Now, on the grid view, let me scroll it up so you can see. Right now, I'm working with just one bar. I'm working with just one bar. If I zoom it in, you will see it's just from 1.1 to 1.4. I'm working with just one bar. Now, your one bar, as far as the thick is concerned, you are basically, your entire bar is referenced to as a note. Do you get? It's referenced to kind of like as a note. That is why your beat is a quarter of a note. Your beat is a quarter of a note. Now, your thick is kind of referencing the number of pulse that is in each of those quarters. That is why the actual name is called, the actual acronym PPQN is pulse per quarter note. That inherently means the number of places within your beat where you can put an event, and it is from 0 to 960. This simply means you have averagely about 960 different places that you can place an event, like a MIDI event, just like the one you have on the screen right now. I think I have just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 MIDI events on the screen right now. But on each of the beats, as you can see, on my first beat, I have just one MIDI event. On my second beat, I have 2. Third and fourth, I have just 1 respectively. What we're saying is, for each of your beats that is in your bar, you have 960 places where you can actually place a MIDI event. That is your pulse per quarter note. The quarter of a note is your beat, and your beat well, we know that it's kind of like a quarter of your bar actually, so yes. So now, let's proceed from there. Now, what does this actually mean? It means this is basically how your grid view divides your beats to know where to place them, especially when you have your timing correct enabled. If your timing correct is disabled, yeah, it places your MIDI event exactly where you punch them. So it can punch, it can just put them in there this exactly the same way you punched it without bothering to help you to adjust it or to fix it in the appropriate place to keep your groove, intact. But the moment you enable your timing correct, it does kind of like some calculations to know exactly how to keep your groove intact. The number of the divisions that will happen in each of your bar is very, very important. And that is basically what we're going to be talking about. So now, like I said earlier, 960, if you are not seeing 960, if you are seeing maybe 36 instead of 360, or you are seeing 12 instead of 120, maybe you are seeing 48 instead of 480, especially in your thick ear, this is what I'm talking about. So all you need to do is you can go, maybe because most of these devices, when they come out of the box, the pulse per quarter note is actually default to 2 digits. It will show you 996. But if you go to enable it, put it to 960 ppqn, you will see that it actually shows, it can show you 3 digits. So to do that, we'll just go back to our menu and then go to the settings. On your setting, if you go to sequencer and you scroll down, you will see the display resolution. I have set mine to 960. So there are 2 options there, 96 or 960. 960 makes a whole lot of sense because you basically want to know exactly the exact spot where you are placing your MIDI event. So let's go back to the grid view, then I'll show you something here. Now, on your grid view right now, you want to know what exactly is your current timing correct that you are currently using for your project, right? One of the fastest or the easiest way to know is if you look at the top of your device, if you are in grid view, immediately under the track, you see tracks, where you are selecting the track, there is a line, there's a number there, it says 32. Now basically what that means is your timing division on your time division on your timing correct is actually 32. Let me show you that timing correct. You can see. So the time division, as you can see here, is 32. That's why you can have 32 there. If I change the timing correct, all I do is I press hold. That is my shift. Then I press the timing correct here. If I change it to 16 and I close it, you can see that that has actually changed from 32 to 16. That green number underneath my track, it's now 16. It's just like kind of like a straight off. You need to know exactly what timing correct I'm using, 16. And what that 16 means is for each of your bar, you have 16 places. The timing correct is telling you that I can easily and conveniently snap any of the MIDI events you punched into 16 places on every bar. And what that means is for each of those 16 places, they are also equally distributed within your beats, which means you get 4 slots each for each of your beats, because 4 by 4 makes 16. So if I should go back and hold shift and press the timing correct and I make it 32, what that is telling me is that now that I have 32, it will be 32 divided by 4. And that way, each of my beats will have 8 different places where I can place my beats. As you can see, if I should zoom it out, let me just zoom it. You see that? So between my 1, 2 and 1, 3, that is my second beat, you can actually see that it's divided into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that just to tell you that right now, if my timing correct being enabled, if I start striking beats and I start recording, it will definitely put them in 8 possible places, to snap them to grid in 8 possible places in each of my beats. How does that help you? You are a producer and you need to know exactly where you want to place your beat. You have the beat playing on your head And you can actually count, okay, fine, I think I want this beat to play consistently. I want this MIDI event to consistently strike maybe like 5 or 6 times or 7 times per beat. Now you know how to actually do that calculation and say, okay, fine. Okay, I want my, let's say for example, I want my snare to come in maybe like consistently 4 times per beat. Then you know that anytime you are trying to put to register that your MIDI event for the snare, it your timing correct at that time has to be 16, because to be 16 time divisions across your one bar will give each of your beats 4 different places where you can place your MIDI events. Now that's what we're talking about. Now you'll be wondering, okay, now what about the tick? Like I said earlier, it's the possible places between your beats where you can place your MIDI event. And you can actually tell when you put your hand, that is, you long press on any of those events, you can easily tell what exactly, it can give you more information, kind of like a pop-up, if you are the type that you are familiar with computer terms, pop-up. Now, let me show you that. So let's say I drag up, let me maximize this so you see it properly. Yeah, so right here, right now, if I press and hold on the first event in my second beat of the first bar, let me press and hold. Okay, I need to select, press and hold. As you can see, right now, what I have is, it's telling me that, yeah, the event is on actually the A13, that's part 13, right? But then there is 1. What does that mean? 1 means I'm on the first bar. Then I'm on the second beat. That's what 2 means. Then 0 means I'm actually at the beginning of the tick. So my tick, I'm like on the 0 position right now. I'm at the very beginning of the tick. And that 112 basically represents the length of this particular event. Length might not really be of that much of an importance to someone, if to you, if you are using it, maybe you are cueing or you are kind of like laying your drum event, let's say your drum, your snare, things like that. Those ones might really, because most of the time it strikes immediately you hit it, it strikes. So if your event is longer or shorter, it might not really matter. But for those that are dealing with maybe like instruments such as let's say your piano, your flute, most of the time your length actually is important, because the longer you hold it, the longer it plays. When you release it, that's when it stops playing. So basically the length is important. So you want to know if your lengths are okay, they're regular or they're not regular, or you want to make it them irregular. When you click on it, you click down and you hold the particular event, you can actually tell what is the length of that particular event. That's 112. Now let's check the next one. As you can see, pressing and hold on the next one, you see it's also 1, that's the first bar, 2, the second beat, 320, that is the current location of the particular event. This tick is on 320 and the length is 89, which means it's not as long as the very first one. Now, like I said, 320, let me try and move it or snap it to one of the grids that we have. You see, so I just snapped it to the other one. You can see now it's on 240. That's the current position of that particular event on that beat, 240. If I move it to the next one, you see 360. If I bring it here, it's 120. If I take it, as you can see, as I'm changing it, that particular tick is changing and it's giving me the current location of that tick. So I need that tick to be able to know, okay, maybe if I'm laying another sequence of beats on, let's say A12, I'm trying to put some MIDI event on A12, I will be able to use that to know that, oh yes, this particular MIDI event, I want it to be exactly at the same spot with the other one, especially maybe if my timing correct is off. I can easily put my hand on it and know, oh yeah, this is the tick, this is the position, and I can try the next one underneath, this is the position, and I can easily choose to adjust it by, nudging it, to the left or to the right of the screen. So now, basically, that is what your the grid view offers you, ability to know exactly what all these things are about. Now, let's take a look at that timing correct that we mentioned earlier. like I said, when you're done with this session, you should be able to fully understand and grasp the concept of your timing correct and how it relates to your grid view, the equation that is involved. Now, I'm on 132, right? So let me come back to 116. That is my time division. Let me use the 16. That means I'm dividing my bar into 16 different places. And that is, if you come back to that, you can see on my screen right now, each of my beats now, let me do this, I'm minimizing it, and then I'm dragging it, as you can see. Now, each of my bar now, I'm on my beat 2 now. It now has 4 different divisions, and that divisions, 4 by 4 now is equal to 16. That's what I'm on. Time division of 16. Okay, now how about the triplets? You may be wondering, okay, that triplet, what does it really mean? What does it do, or how is it calculated? Now, if we go back to timing correct, let's say right now I'm on 1 of 16, like my time division is 16. If I enable triplet, what I'm saying is divide that time division, divide it again by 2, then add the answer to the initial number. So if I enable triplet on 16, what I'm doing is I'm dividing 16 by 2, which is 8. Then I'm adding 8 to 16. The answer will now be 24. By so doing, that means I now have 24 places where I can put my events, my MIDI events, in each of my bar. And if my bar is taking 24, automatically my previous beat that was taking 4 will now be taking 6, because 6 times 4 will be 24. So 6, 6, 6, 6 each on every beat of my bar will now make 24. That's if I enable triplet, remember. So let's do that again right now. Right now, as you can see, it's just 1, 2, 3, 4. If I hold my shift and I press timing correct, and then I hit triplet, as you can see, you can now see T behind it. So if I close this, you can see my 16 initially that was underneath that track. The 16, that red 16 now, and the green 16 rather, is now having a T. If you're in grid view, you can tell that, okay, fine, it's now having a T. And you can see now my second beat has been divided into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, as opposed to the initial 4 that was there. And that's because everything now will be working on 24. So that 24 might not really be visibly, displayed on your screen that, okay, it's now 24. But just know, anytime you have a T, you're working with like a triplet, what it basically means is it's going to take that particular number, divide it by 2, and then add the result to your current total, and then you are going to have like a new extended feature. I noticed that most people that doesn't like some trap and all that, they play with this a lot, so that it gives them like that kind of anytime they're trying to chop the snare, it gives them that good feel of being able to easily jump around and do some accidentals, and just make good melodies, good rhythm out of their project when they're especially chopping using the triplet timing correct. So let's go back to the timing corrector. Let me show you that. Okay, so if I take off this triplet, even funny enough, even for one of 4, what it just does is it still divides by 2 and then adds the 2 to it, makes it 6, but then you will now realize that where the placement will now be, it will still divide your screen into 6, but where the placement will be, it will be different from the usual that you normally see around. So let me show you 1/8. If I'm on 1/8, it will just be 2 per beat. That means 2 possible positions where it can snap my MIDI events to on each of my beats, because I'm on timing correct of time division 8. This way, it means if I try to strike my MIDI event 3 times on a beat, it will not work. It will snap it into 2 places. So if I'm looking at it will just snap it into 2 places, and that is all. So you'll be wondering why is it that I am striking my keypad to give me maybe like a triple, like a beat, like 4 places, but it's not doing that for me. It's just giving me 3 places. Have you gone to check what the division is, what kind of time division you have currently on your grid view? And you can easily just, based on what you have on your head you want to play, you can actually use your time division to actually calculate that and say, okay, because of this is how I want this particular MIDI event to go. This is the timing correct I should use to ensure I get it, and also to snap it properly and make sure the rhythm is intact and the interval is intact. Yeah, there are times when they'll say you need to nudge it up or nudge it down, forward or backward a little bit to kind of like give it that, the real feel, because most of the time, if you're also working with all these events that happens to be too rigid or too stereotyped, people will know that this is just pure electronic. But by the time you decide to let's just add some little bit of nudging back and forth to your MIDI event, it will seem kind of like it's real. Because most of the time, trust me, even from the best drummers, once in a while, their timing is not always perfect. So you need to know that. And that's basically what brings the realness. People know that, okay, this is a human being playing. Anyways, all those ones we're going to cover in later episode when we're going to be talking deeply about the timing correct in itself. And that is where you have this whole swing, the start and all that, the shift timing and all that. But then for now, so like I said, now that we're on one of 8, that's time division of 8, if I enable triplets, what was 2 before should now be 3. As you can see, 1, 2, 3. So if you are the type that wants your beat to go that basically means, because that means you're basically, what I'm doing is each of your beats, you're trying to put 3 events there, especially maybe like for your kick. Fine. You've successfully been able to divide your beats into 3 by dividing your bar into 12. And how did you do that? Because your bar initially should be 8, but because you enable triplets, it will now be 8 divided by 4 plus 4. And the answer now is 4. Now 4 plus 8 will give you 12. And 12 will be divided across board of your 1 bar, quarter of your notes each, which is your beat. And now each of them will have 3 3 each to work on. So that's just the basic calculation, the calculation that basically goes into you understanding how your grid view, is interacting with your timing correct. If you are not the type that uses timing correct, fine. This might not apply to you, but most of the time, a lot of people that work, even especially on these devices, they like to enable timing correct. So at least to put some things in check and put some things properly, annotated where they're supposed to be, especially the MIDI events. And now you've known how that calculation how it works. So don't forget, if you have any question relating to this, just let me know, and we'll basically just take a time to answer your questions. Drop it in the comment section below. We've been doing that for a couple of people, and I'll be glad to help. Also, don't forget to share, subscribe, and like if you find this interesting. And we'll see you in the next one. Thank you. So there you have it, everything you need to know about the MPC sequence. And this will definitely help you to be able to make better decisions in terms of your beat arrangement. That is just the sequence explained. Next episode, we're going to be looking at the timing control, how you can actually use your MPC sequence, the knowledge you have right now, to control your timing on your grid view. Trust me, it's going to be an interesting one. If you really want to stick around for that, you need to like, subscribe, and also don't forget to share.